Hi, this is Randy Kirk, and there's been an awful lot of noise about Twitter and about Elon Musk and about Tesla, about the stock price and everything else that's been happening this past few weeks. I wanted to address all of that today, and I'm going to do it in the raw. No editing. This will be like a stream without the stream, but I really felt we needed to get this out quickly, so I have not sent it to my editors before producing it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the why first. Why has Elon Musk purchased Twitter in the first place? What are the motivations? Let's get to the best that we can understand, because nobody is inside Elon's head. But if we take him at his word, let's take a look at least the three motivations that are most obvious for why he bought Twitter in the first place. I would say that the number one reason was the free speech issue. I think it was just bugging him. He has been using Twitter for a long time. He's seen it as an opportunity to be able to be in a free environment where it's possible to express yourself, as he says, in the town square environment. And I think he saw that eroding, saw that the opportunity was slipping away for him and for people like him to be able to be honest and straightforward on Twitter. And I think that's what first gave him the idea that maybe he should buy Twitter. So that'd be number one. I think that's an honest and sincere decision on his part as to why he was interested in purchasing Twitter. The number two reason, I think he saw that Twitter was in trouble. Twitter was losing money. Twitter was potentially not executing at the maximum level that it could be. There was maybe a downward spiral that one could see in the Twitter sphere. And so I think he saw that there was an opportunity. Here was a company that was in trouble and that was not going in the right direction, that he might be able to affect and make better. Number three, which might not be quite as obvious because I don't think he's ever said these words, Twitter is the number one place where Elon is able to talk about Tesla. He's able not only to talk about Tesla, to use it as an advertising media, a place where he can say what's going to happen next in Tesla, or to talk about aspects of Tesla that he wants to get a conversation going. He also has a lot of folks expressing back to him. So there's a massive fan group on Twitter with a lot of discussion, and he seems to be monitoring those discussions to a certain degree. So he's getting feedback from his fans and even his detractors on Twitter, to where he can get what every CEO, I can tell you, I've run more companies than I care to admit, something between 30 and 40 companies. And those companies that I've run, I would have loved to have the information that he gets from his fans and from customers and from detractors. No company that I've ever had would I be able to be in such close contact with my actual customer to be able to hear unfettered kinds of responses back as to the product, as to the company, as to customer service, all of the issues that concern one when making decisions about how to go forward with products and or services when you're running a company. So I would say that the ability to get that kind of information and to be the ability for him to express himself to such a large group of individuals who might be potential customers of his products and or supporters of his efforts, it's unparalleled in terms of any time I can think of in history what he has been able to do on Twitter. So losing it was unthinkable. So I would say that those were three of the primary reasons. And then he had a fourth, which he did speak specifically of, which may have been in the back of his mind. Maybe it was in the front of his mind. Who knows? But his second company was X.com. X.com eventually became PayPal. It was the same idea as PayPal. He was in competition with a company that was more exactly PayPal, but the two of them eventually merged, and that became PayPal. Elon had much bigger ideas for what PayPal could and should become in terms of being a banking enterprise, et cetera. Well, I think that Elon, well, he has said, he has stated clearly that he believes that Twitter is the foundation upon which he can build what he originally had in mind for X.com. And not only that, it is going to give him way more than that. He has described it as being the everything app. And so this is an opportunity which you could get a lot of different ways. You could build it from scratch. That could take years and it might not be successful. Here was an opportunity to buy it, buy the platform, buy the number of individuals that were taking part in the platform, involving themselves in the platform, and get it at a price that he thought reasonable at the time. And the argument that the price went down so much over time, that was really in the macro, and would have gone down regardless of Elon's involvement. So those will be the four reasons. Those are the whys. You might have your own theory about why he bought Twitter. You can mention those in the comments below. Those are my theories. Those are his stated reasons as well as the obvious reasons. Those are all that I care to cover for now. So the next question would be his method for the turnaround. This is classic. And I think this is one of the main reasons I want to do this video this morning is people are complaining and going crazy over his methodologies over the last few weeks for getting this Twitter company back into action, back into being what it could be, or what it even should have been, and what it could be in the future. I think it is an MBA. I think it will be used in MBA programs in the future as an example of exactly how to do a turnaround. Now, please understand, I have been involved in turnarounds, and as a consultant, I have helped companies with turnarounds, so I know a little bit about this. Number one, you have to act with urgency. And of course, Elon Musk already talks about in other environments about how important it is to him that his employees and that his suppliers and that everybody around him act with a sense of urgency. And this is true. It's something I also feel very strongly about in my companies, is this idea of acting with urgency. But when you're dealing with a turnaround, the urgency is so much more pronounced. So the very first thing he did as soon as he had ownership was to start cutting expenses. And you have to do this fast. This is not something you can stand around and go, oh, should I cut this or should I cut that? No, you need to cut expenses. You can always put those expenses back. He cut half the payroll. Well, if some of those were wrong, if the individuals that were laid off, or the individuals that eventually left the company were actually really, really good, and individuals that he'd like to have back are categories or specific job descriptions that he'd like to have back that shouldn't have been let go, well, you can put them back. But you can't get the money back that you spent for waste. You need to make those cuts very, very rapidly when a company is in financial difficulty or is in need of a turnaround. Those expenses don't just go to the employees. There were dozens of other expenses that became public knowledge that he was cutting back very rapidly, like the employee lunches that were costing something like $4,000 or $400 a lunch, I think it was. But there was huge amounts of money being spent on these employee lunches, and the employees weren't even there in the building to get the lunches. More recently, he was criticized because he had a cutback. He's not paying the rent, and that he's in negotiations with the landlords. Well, once again, he's in a very, very, very expensive part of the country in terms of renting commercial property, and to immediately and urgently get into the business of putting himself in a position to negotiate those rents or to potentially get out of those leases. This would be a critical thing to do when you're when you have a company that's in financial difficulty. All right, so those would be some of the things that he started doing. Now, the next level of things that he's doing, which is maybe creating the most controversy, is selling his own stock in Tesla in order to raise funds. He's also been on the market talking to private investors about investing more money in Twitter at the same value that he paid for Twitter, $44 a share, I think it is. It's also been noticed that he's been trying to raise some more funds. It's not 100% clear over at SpaceX, and maybe those are funds that he's trying to recapture for his own use. Well, okay, what's the second most important thing you want to do after cutting expenses in a company that's in trouble? This number two thing is to get yourself into a good cash position. Twitter's certainly not in a good cash position, has a large loan outstanding at a very high interest rate during these times. 11% would be extremely high to pay in terms of interest. So we don't know for sure if that's what he's doing with the funds, but clearly raising additional funds by selling equity in Twitter would be a great way to knock down some of those loans and also to put cash in the bank so that you can weather the storm. Elon has said multiple times that 2023 will be a difficult year for advertising, for companies that rely on advertising revenue, because we're looking at some level of recession in 2023. Therefore, getting cash in the bank would be the number two thing you'd absolutely want to do. How fast can we generate cash so that we have this cash in the bank? The number three thing that he's doing is he's urgently trying to broaden the base of revenue. So broadening the base in this particular case turns out to be $8 a month for a blue check if you do it through the through your browser, and $11 if you do it through Apple. So getting those kind of revenues in, a lot of people are complaining, oh my gosh, $8, $11, too much money, whatever. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out in a couple of weeks just how many people were willing to pay the $8 or the $11 in order to have the blue check. But it's a revenue generating approach. Smart, hugely smart business. How can we add additional revenue from other potential sources in order to get the company on a pay-as-you-go basis into profits, into free cash flow? The other thing that he's doing is he's been going out and meeting with actual advertisers, top advertisers, and selling them on the mission, selling them on the direction that Twitter's going to take in order to get them back active on Twitter with their advertising dollars. This has already been effective. Everybody has noticed that there's more advertising taking place at this time. Now, one of the ways that, in addition to talking to the advertisers, in order to get the advertisers to spend, they need to know that there are people actively involved on Twitter that are spending a lot of time on Twitter, and that it's their customer. So the other thing that Elon's been doing, which is the absolute correct thing to do, is trying to get the users more active, more users and more activity. So he has described it as he wants users on Twitter to feel at the end of the day, when they've not that end of the day thing that's that you hear all the time, at the end of the Twitter day, when you turn off your computer or you stop using Twitter for the day, he wants the person who's been using Twitter to feel as though it's been a great experience. He compared it the other day to people that are using TikTok or YouTube Shorts, that a lot of times people feel, man, that was a waste of time. Why did I go down that rabbit hole? You may have said the very same thing about time that you spent on YouTube Shorts or on Instagram or on TikTok. He wants people to feel the opposite after their experience on TikTok. On Twitter. So how do you do that? Well, you want to get great content, you want to have great conversations, and you want to feel free to be able to be in dialogue on Twitter. Those are things going to make you feel great about the experience when you're done. So what has happened in the 6 or 7, 8 weeks that it's been since he took over Twitter? Well, the number of users has gone up dramatically. The amount of time people are spending on Twitter has gone up dramatically. And I can only talk about the tweets that I've seen. People say that they're enjoying their experience on Twitter more than they did before Elon took over. Well, that's got to be music to the advertisers' ears. I've been an advertiser for about 50 years now on various different platforms. That would be music to my ears. That's what I want to hear, that the magazine, newspaper, television program, radio program, whatever it is who is the advertising platform, that's what I want out of my advertising platform. I want my customer to be there, to be happy using that platform, and to be actively engaged in that platform so that my ad gets seen and responded to. So that's another thing that he's been doing over these last weeks in order to get the company turned around. The other thing that has to happen is you have to get the engineering right in this particular case. So whatever the company might be, it might be a company that makes products, it might be a company that has services. Well, you want to make sure that the products and the services are being delivered appropriately. The products are high quality, the products are packaged correctly, the products look good, the products do what they say that they're supposed to do, the products are priced correctly, etc. You can say all the same things about services. Well, according to Elon, the software that runs Twitter was a complete mess. I forget his exact words, but not good. So in order to make sure that all of the aspects of the Twitter environment run correctly, look right, act right, give good customer service to the person who's there, you need to fix that software. That's what he's been very actively involved in since he took over Twitter, and you need to do it with tremendous speed. It has to be extremely high priority in order to keep people wanting to be in that space. So these are some of the things I want to check here to see. Then, of course, he wanted to deal with the free speech issue. So that's also been a top priority. You've noticed it. If you're on Twitter, you know that that's what he's been talking about. How will it work? He doesn't know for sure. This is the first time that he's had to deal with this. So he's taking polls, he's asking questions. There's real life situations like with the Twitter files that were released the other day that created a bunch of controversy, but it gave some examples of how to deal with the free speech issue. Then there was the business of the jet, I forget what it was called now, but the fellow who has been following his jet around, and other people that were doxing Elon, and he came up with a new policy, anti-doxing. Well, people disagreed with that anti-doxing policy, at least the way he first described it. So there was a debate, there was dialogue, there was free speech about how that might take place in the future. All of this transparency should be giving the average viewer, the average user of Twitter more confidence that this is going to be a place where free speech takes place. That was part of his main goal. Again, it has to be done with urgency. You're going to fail fast forward, which is another Elon Musk top saying that he has, is you need to fail fast, you need to fail forward. This is what he's doing. Taking action. Some of it's wrong, some of it's right. Correct it later, but start doing something to move yourself towards the goals that the company needs to do. All right, I think those were the biggest issues. Okay, the innovation will be coming. He's already talking about the things that are going to be coming along. So this gives us hope for the future. This gives us a promise. This gives us a vision of where we're going. So longer tweets are going to be part of the future. Longer video is going to be part of the future. Good opportunities for content creators to be paid for their work. These seem like really, really good things, and eventually a PayPal type of system that eventually I'm suspecting he will build on very substantially. So the app that does everything, we'll see what that looks like down the road, but this is a vision. So it can encourage you or me or others to say, wow, I need to be a part of this Twitter sphere, because the future looks really good there for things that I want to be able to do. All right, so these are the things that he's been doing over the last few weeks in order to turn the company around. Okay. What about the Tesla stock situation? What are we going to do about that now that it's down so much? Is it because Elon has been talking so much about Twitter and making so many enemies out of individuals on the left? Is it because his sales of the Tesla stock have caused less liquidity, therefore the stock has come down in value? Sure, all those things may be true. But in the short term, the stock market is a gambling casino where people are making decisions based on things like, did Elon make people mad last week? Or did his sale of stock cause some kind of disruption in the pricing? And in the long term, the stock market is a weighing machine that weighs the value of any given firm on its fundamentals. I'm just going to say it straight up. I've been playing the stock market for, let's just call it 50 plus years. My first company that I got involved with was Fairchild Camera and Instrument. Most of you probably don't even know who that is. So it's a very, very long time ago. And it was a flyer. It was a company that went up and down in value with absolutely nothing. It was untethered from its valuation. A little piece of news, it would go up 20, 30 times. It went from 20 to 120. That was the range that I used to play it in. And it was just based on the news of the day. And had nothing to do with the fundamentals. So this is not a new thing. It's not the first time there's been a company that's been news driven or that has been untethered from its fundamentals on the stock market. The long-term situation with regard to Tesla, I've never seen a company that had a greater chance for a massive upswing in value than Tesla in my years and years and years of following companies, watching the stock market, watching the economy. It's unparalleled. The car company alone should be worth $1 trillion right now, and probably more than $1 trillion right now based on the fundamentals. The energy company alone should be worth 400 billion, 500 billion on the fundamentals, just based on the ramp that's expected. The robot company should probably be valued at around $50 to $60 billion if Rivian was worth $100 billion earlier this year. So let's make that comparison. Rivian and other startup electric car companies have been worth 50, 70, $100 billion during the last 12 months. I think that the Optimus robot concept should have had at least a valuation of 50, 60, $70 billion already. And we could go down the list of all of the sub companies within the Tesla environment, full self-driving, robotaxis, the filling the gas stations, or even energy stations. There's so many parts to the Tesla story, and all of them, many of them, have the potential to be the largest companies in the history of the world, in revenue, in profits, and in value. So if you add those together, the company is going to be worth multiple times what Apple is now, and will have revenues multiple times what Amazon has now. And what I'm sorry, not just Amazon is small compared to Walmart. So revenues will be multiple times Walmart. So this is how I see Tesla. Those are fundamentals that cannot be ignored. We talk about those fundamentals a lot in our recently released book, The Elon Musk Mission. Highly recommend that you get a copy of the Elon Musk Mission if you'd like to know more details on everything that we've been talking about on this particular video. All right, so what will happen with the Tesla stock? I don't know. In the short term, it's hard to imagine it going any lower than 150. It could go lower than 150. If the macro, if the folks that are investing their money in the stock market believe that the recession next year is going to be much worse than say 2008 or 2000, maybe people will start taking their money out even more and putting it into cash. I'm not going to be able to give you any recommendations with regard to where the market is going to go over the next 6 months. I will tell you that in my experience, sometime in the next few months, the market is going to take off because recessions end and stock markets predict the overall market. They predict the economy about 6 months out. So if you think that the economy is going to turn around in May or June or July or August, 6 months prior to that, that's when the market should start to turn and the next leg of the market should be a pretty substantial upswing. Okay, that's a little bit of an understanding of where the stock is today and where it might go. Long term, I have no question in my mind, it's 100 times her. In how many years? 6, 7, 8, 100 times. That's not financial advice. It's my opinion. Do your own homework. All right. So let's see here. I think we've covered it all. Let me just take a quick look. Yes, I think we've covered it all. I think the only thing left would be Twitter is a huge asset to Tesla. We talked about that a little bit a few minutes ago. It's where Elon does all of his advertising. It's where he hears from the public. It's where he engages with his fan base. It's where he gets to hear about the problems that are happening with the products, with the company, with customer service, etc. It's where he gets to introduce new concepts and new ideas and then get feedback on these new concepts and new ideas. This is just an amazing gift to Tesla. And any Tesla stockholder that doesn't understand how much of a gift Twitter is to Tesla, you're missing out on a foundational and fundamental principle of how business works and of how advertising and marketing works. I would have loved to have had the kind of power that Elon Musk does through Twitter for Tesla when I owned my manufacturing company. It would have been a huge blessing to the company. Well, I think that covers it. I, again, encourage you to go out and buy a copy of the Elon Musk Mission. If you like this content, if you thought it was useful, please subscribe. I'm going to be producing much more just like this. If you liked the comment, that'll, if you hit that like button, it will help the algorithm. And then we'll see what we'll come up with next. It's just been great talking to you today. Bye now.